Champions Cup round of 16 Saturday games, folks. There were 5 of them overnight, largely for me here in NZ. I've just been catching up on my Sunday on some of the games, some full ones and some highlights. We'll go through them pretty quick. What are the potential outcomes in terms of the next round of the playoffs? Remember, there's still 2 games to go on the Sunday, with Leinster getting into action against Edinburgh and the Bordeaux game against Leicester. But from the 5 games, we'll go through them pretty quick and you guys can let us know your thoughts. Overall thoughts, isn't it nice that there were some close games? Bath against Saracens was back and forth. The Stormers up against Toulon is a 1-point game. The Bulls pushed Glasgow all the way to the finish. And Sale with the away win over Quins. That was a pretty hard-fought one as well. Toulouse giving Bristol a hiding. Well, there's no real surprises there, apart from one stat, which we will get to in a second. I am going to start with Toulon against the Stormers, because I watched that one in full, and I think I was justified in doing it. Much after the fact. It was 2 a.m. New Zealand time, so I did not get up to watch this one live. Very entertaining game. If you're a Stormers fan, I reckon you kind of blew it. I know there's probably going to be chat about the way that they handled the final phase. Was it a try? Was he held up? Were their guys offside? But if you can't score either a droppy or a try with a 2-man advantage, there were guys out wide. 2-man advantage. There's width. Use the width. Why are you going up the guts? I don't understand it. You got to take that one on the chin and say you blew that one. That was within the Stormers' grasp to take that win at the death. You can't be going up the guts and risking getting held up at the death of that game. That, I feel like, is on the Stormers' management of the game. They had a great chance to win that one away from home. They took a strong squad. They had scrum power. Like, Toulon had a lot of the possession and territory, particularly the territory. That finished 60% Toulon. But the Stormers' scrum was powerful. They worked some nice tries. Drian is still such a danger man. Like, Ben White's helped set up with a try. Tuisuvu's try is cracking with the hands. It is an absolute thing of beauty. Stormers' lock, who scored a try, seemed to just kind of come out of nowhere. There were some nice tries in this game. It was entertaining, kind of back and forth. Like, Tuisuvu busted 8 tackles in this game. The guy is a machine. So, very lovely kind of stuff. There was a bizarre moment. Like, I watch a fair bit of rugby, but there's every now and again something that pops up that you don't see every day. Like, the ref at one point when the Stormers were claiming a try, like, as if to say, like, do we have to go through the TMO process? He asked the Stormers guy, do you genuinely think you scored that? Like, because if you don't, then let's just move on. That was the implication. But the Stormers guys claimed it, and it ended up going back for a knock on, but the Stormers had advantage anyway. But yeah, it was just kind of amusing to see the ref just ask the question. They're adamant that they think they've scored it. Let's go through the review process. Good management, I guess, from the ref in that one. But yeah, Toulon to hold the Stormers up on 75 minutes was massive. Priso, and then the Khan try set up by Sasha, fending bricks on 77 minutes, made it a 1-point game, grandstand finish. But when Ma'a Nonu, who's still playing, got himself yellow carded for that head-on-head at the death, 15 men Stormers against 13 men Toulon honestly should have scored. They either needed to set for a droppy or use the width. I don't think going up the guts was wise. I think they blew a golden opportunity, no matter what you think about the way the refs handled the final play. Territory is 60-40 to Toulon guys. Line breaks 8-3 to Toulon. Penalty count 10-7 against Toulon. So, yeah, cracking game. You want knockout rugby to be close and entertaining, and that's, I think, what you kind of got out of that game. So, Toulon will take on Glasgow, who won that game. That should be really thoroughly entertaining. Sarries against Bath. I also watched this one. I didn't know the result, but I figured, hey, I don't watch that much Premiership in recent times. This game should be pretty entertaining, and it was also very much back and forth. I was very keen to see, like, the wing battles with Kaluri on one side and Arundel and Thokana Singer and whatnot. On the Bath side, I was very keen to see how things were managed. Sarri scored first, despite being defensively under the pump for quite some time. Bracken had kind of a wee snipe, which was a cracking stuff. Guy Pepper, speaking of stuff which you won't see every day of the week, Like, you've all seen it in some games where there is a ruck and the 9 is just digging in there to pull the ball out, and somebody just slaps the ball out of his hands and gets himself stupidly yellow carded. I don't know that I've ever seen a guy do that with his flipping head. Guy Pepper. Yeah. Header on the ball. What are you doing? It's insane. So stupid. One of the dumbest things I've seen on a rugby field, but he did it. So both these games that I watched in full had moments of madness. And then the ref took a knock right before halftime of Nico Moshukeli. He didn't come out for the second half. It was 10-0 at halftime to Saracens. So, yeah, the Bath scrum was getting pumped, getting yellow card warned. They did end up getting themselves a yellow card in the second half. But, yeah, second half got a lot better for Bath. Once they brought on Thomas Dutoy, the scrum settled down. They started getting Saris under the pump. At scrum time, Arundel was able to cut loose, got himself a try. Obano was the guy who got pinged at scrum time, which is, I think, a bit of a tough one because I think they were pinging the other side of the scrum up until that point. But hey, they said one more scrum penalty, so that carried forth despite the change of ref at halftime. Saracens' line-out struggled a wee bit too much. I feel like they'll be a bit disappointed with the way they handled that. Thokina Singer scored a try, though, despite the fact they had the Obano yellow card, so that was cracking stuff. And then, yeah, that was, I think, one from where they had scrum advantage themselves. Ollie Lawrence with the big kind of half break. It was great as you could kind of feel Bath coming into the game. Spencer scored one, which was a proper kind of 14-pointer. Well, I think 12 because I think they missed the conversion. But Bath went dead and buried on their own line defence to length of the field attack. That try alone is worth the price of admission. If you haven't seen the highlights, well worth going to have a look. Malin's got one to keep it interesting from the bench. I haven't seen much of that guy. It wasn't that long ago he was an England regular, and I haven't been watching enough Premiership to see him. But yeah, the Harry Wilson late yellow card to Sarri certainly didn't help their cause. Bath punished with Lawrence. Kaluri got one. And yeah, the Arundel second try sealed the deal for Bath. So good second half comeback from Bath. They were put under some pressure, scored some sexy ass tries, turned defence into attack, turned the scrum woes around. So entertaining game. Both these two, big thumbs up. Entertaining way for my Sunday here. Line breaks in that game was 6 apiece. Penalty counts 10, 11. Defenders beaten 23, 22. So many facets of the game. Very, very even. Arundel 90 metres, 3 line breaks. Not going to sing a 7 defenders beaten. Some cracking individuals for Bath in that regard. Now, Toulouse against Bristol. I didn't watch that one in full. Because I figured Bristol are going to get pumped. And sure enough, they got pumped. They did score first. So they can at least say they were in the lead. But it lasted all of 5 minutes. Toulouse replied with 7 tries in a row. 7 tries in a row. They did score a couple of late consolations, did Bristol, to make the scoreline a little bit less painful. But Toulouse are an amazing team, and they cut them to bits. I looked up the stats. A tackle percentage of 68% for Bristol is genuinely among the worst I have seen from any professional rugby team ever. To be in the 70s is bad enough. 90s is great. 80s is usually okay. Low 80s, you're starting to get into a bit of trouble. Obviously, it depends on the way you defend. If you're, shooting out of the line, putting line speed on, you miss more tackles and whatnot. It's not a catch-all blanket stat, but generally speaking, 68, though, is just bloody awful. They missed 41 tackles. Teddy Tomar busted 13. Almost said 15. 13. Goodness me. That's a proper hiding. So, Toulouse, they will face either Bordeaux or Leicester, depending on how the result of that game goes tomorrow. Bath, for their one, will face Northampton, which should be really interesting because it's another 2 Premiership clubs up against each other. Then the Glasgow against the Bulls game. I probably should have watched that one in full, but I figured, hey, I already watched quite a lot of URC. It's 2 URC teams. I only watched the highlights, but that seems like it also adds to the Kraken URC, the Kraken Champions Cup knockout matches story that was this Saturday. Because that is a close game, 25-21, and the lead changed multiple times in that game. Very, very even game. Andre Pollard getting the kick and boots going. Glasgow scored the first try, did really well to keep the ball alive, like really quick hands in pretty tough conditions. In Glasgow, Krobala got a try in the corner for the Bulls. Like the Bulls took a strong squad for this one. Pollard kicked a penalty. Glasgow got a maul try, another penalty for the Bulls. So 14-12 at halftime. Bulls have got a 2-point lead. Remember, Glasgow has been a really tough place for teams to go. Second half, a little bit less in the way of scoring. But a couple of tries from Glasgow made it 22-14, which is just seeming like, hey, that's kind of comfortable enough to keep them at arm's length. But then the Van Staden try made it a 1-point game. But they got a yellow card for offside as they were defending at the death, and the Glasgow penalty meant it was game over. So that's a proper round of 16 game as well. Good on the Bulls for sending their best team and giving it a good crack. Like both the South African teams were very close to getting away wins, which proved pretty hard to come by in this round of 16. So yeah, there's obviously still always conversations about the South Africans' inclusion in this competition, but both the Stormers and the Bulls gave it a good crack. On another day, both could have won these games. They were not B teams. They were not rolled by a bunch. So pretty entertaining game. Stats-wise for that, like the Glasgow guys had the possession, 55%, but the Bulls had 55% territory. Line breaks is 4-3, so pretty low in those conditions, I suppose. A factor. Glasgow were just the one more. Glasgow's lineup was not great. Bulls' discipline not great. So, yeah, storylines in that game all abound as well. And then the last game, Quins against Sale, is the one game which actually had a reasonable kickoff time for me. It was 7 o'clock in the morning here in NZ. Easter Sunday, I will admit I didn't get up to watch it because I looked at this one and thought, neither of these teams is going to really genuinely threaten for the Champions Cup. With all due respect to both teams, neither is really in a great position this year. And I feel like I must be not the only one to think that because there were a lot of empty seats for this game. I don't know if the ticket prices were high. I don't know if it's because Easter and everyone's away, but I didn't notice it in any of the other games. But it was noticeable in this game. There were a fair few empty seats for a knockout game, Champions Cup. I would have thought maybe there's a bigger crowd, but as I said, I looked at it and thought, I can probably skip this one and watch the highlights. And it seems like maybe that's how a lot of people viewed it. Sale did really well, though. George Ford kept the scoreboard ticking along. The Harlequins guys didn't score any in the first half. It was 16-0 at halftime from the boot of George Ford and a Luke Cowan-Dickey try. He would get one in the second half as well. A bit of a late Quins resurgence. Cunningham South, wrecking ball stuff from him. And then Don Brandt grabbed a couple. But yeah, too little too late for the Quins guys. They are not able to get back within touching distance. Like line breaks was 8-5 to Quins, but they also conceded double the penalties, 12-6, and they had 2 yellow cards to zip. So yeah, Glasgow against Toulon. Leinster or Edinburgh up against Sale. Sale's going to be massive underdogs, assuming it's Leinster, which it pretty much will be. Bath, Northampton, all Premiership affair for that one, and then either Bordeaux or Leicester. Probably Bordeaux. Up against Toulouse, all top 14 affair, but we'll see. Still 2 games to go. They've both got pretty rubbish kickoff times for me tomorrow as well, 2 a.m. and 4:30 a.m. So I'll check those 2 final games out tomorrow. A bit belated, I'm sure, and then we'll have a chat about them. But you guys let us know your thoughts. As I said, generally pretty happy with so many back and forth games, lead changes, some high action drama at the death, which is what you want to see from knockout rugby. And there's a big blowout. There's a big blowout there as well. But anyway, you guys let us know your thoughts. Take care, and I'll talk to you guys again soon. Happy Easter. Bye-bye.